They pleaded for mercy, but humanity's monsters came instead. The planet Turin 5 burned beneath twin suns, its skies streaked with fire and smoke. The alien fleet had arrived without warning, their black ships blotting out the smaller moon like shadows of death. On the ground, Turinians ran through crumbling cities, their cries echoing across deserts and ruined towns. No one had thought resistance possible. The alien empire, known as the Scifi, was merciless. They crushed planets without hesitation, leaving only silence behind. Yet somewhere in the chaos, a strange signal pierced the static of space. It was faint, almost too weak to detect, a call long thought lost in the past. Its origin was unmistakable, human. The Scifi fleet, confident as ever, paused, sensing the faint energy signature. "Humans," Commander Keller of the Scifi flagship hissed. His long fingers tightened around the control panel. "This is impossible. The humans are gone. They do not intervene. They do not care." The officers around him murmured, sharing the disbelief. The humans had vanished from galactic records decades ago. Their old colonies were supposedly destroyed, their fleets dismantled. And yet this signal whispered through space like a ghost. "Perhaps it is a trick," one officer suggested. "Some hidden transmission meant to confuse us." Keller shook his head. "No, the pattern is correct. It is the old emergency protocol. They never send it lightly. It is a warning or a call for something beyond imagination." Meanwhile, on Turin 5, citizens had no knowledge of the signal. They only knew the Scifi were coming, and their cities could not hold against the ship's plasma cannons. Families hid in tunnels, marketplaces had turned to rubble, and the desert winds carried the ash of their homes. A small girl named Lyra clung to her father's hand, her wide eyes reflecting the fires above. "Papa, will they leave us alive?" she whispered. Her father, Jaren, held her tightly, trying to mask the fear. We do not know, but we will survive. We always find a way." Jaren's words were hollow even to his own ears. Survival seemed impossible. The Scifi ships fired without pause, flattening skyscrapers and melting streets. And yet, somewhere beyond the planet, in the void of deep space, the faint human signal pulsed steadily, like a heartbeat waiting to awaken. On board the Scifi flagship, the command room was tense. Data streamed across crystalline displays, mapping the destruction of Turin 5 in real time. Keller studied the human transmission carefully. Its patterns were too organized to be random. There was intent, calculation, intelligence. "They are calling for something," Keller said, his voice low and wary. A junior officer, untested in the wars of the Outer Rim, dared to speak. "Commander, maybe it is a warning to other planets. Maybe humans are telling us to stop." Keller's eyes narrowed. "Stop! Humans do not ask for anything, they act, and when they act, the galaxy remembers. I have read the old histories. Humanity's wars were monstrous. They destroyed worlds. Entire fleets vanished. Planets burned, and they did it without hesitation." The officer paled. "But humans are gone. They have no fleets now. They are never truly gone," Keller interrupted sharply. "That is why this signal is dangerous. It is not a plea. It is a warning, and warnings from humans are never to be ignored." Back on Turin 5, Lyra and her father stumbled through the city's ruins. The heat from the fires made the air hard to breathe. Jaren tried to navigate the streets, but buildings collapsed with every tremor from the Scifi bombardment. Smoke choked their lungs and dust filled every corner. "We must reach the tunnels," Jaren gasped. "They might offer some protection." Lyra clutched his hand tighter. "Papa, what about everyone else?" Jaren could not answer. Survivors were everywhere, running blindly, some screaming, some trying to help, and others frozen in fear. Turin 5 had no army capable of stopping the Scifi, no shield, no hope. Suddenly the sky split with a blinding flash of light. It was not the Scifi weapons. They were precise, but this was different. Ships larger than anything recorded appeared, emerging from beyond the fringe of the sector. Their hulls shimmered with unknown energy, reflecting the twin suns. The Scifi paused. Every ship on the fleet scanned the anomaly. "What is that?" the junior officer cried. "It cannot be human. Humans do not have ships like this." Keller's fingers tightened over the console. "They are humans, but not like any humans we have ever known." The ships moved with silent precision, forming a ring around the Scifi fleet. There was no sound, no warning, and yet the Scifi officers felt a creeping dread. Every weapon, every calculation, every strategy they had ever used seemed useless. On the ground, Jaren and Lyra stumbled into a collapsed street. The fires above were reflected in their eyes. Suddenly, the air trembled, a low hum that made the hairs on their necks rise. "Papa, what is that sound?" Lyra asked, her voice trembling. Jaren did not answer. He had no words for this. The sound grew louder, vibrating through the ruins. Then a wave of energy swept across the planet. It was not an attack, not in the traditional sense. Buildings that had seemed ready to collapse remained standing. Fires flickered but did not spread further. The Scifi bombardment faltered. Their energy beams, so deadly moments before, fizzled as if blocked by an invisible wall. "Look!" Jaren cried. In the sky, distant human ships glinted in the sunlight, their forms massive, monstrous in scale, and unlike anything the Scifi had catalogued. Their arrival changed the battlefield instantly. Commander Keller realized the truth before his officers could comprehend it. Humans were not here to negotiate, they were here to act. "Open all sensors," he commanded, voice shaking. "I want every detail." The readings poured in. Humans moved with speed and precision that no alien technology could match. Their ships were not just weapons. They were living machines, almost aware, responding to threats before they even occurred. Entire Scifi fleets were suddenly vulnerable, trapped in maneuvers they could not escape. "This cannot be," the junior officer whispered, watching one human vessel disable 3 Scifi destroyers with a single wave of energy. It is impossible." Keller did not answer. The dread in his chest was heavy. The humans had arrived not as diplomats, not as negotiators. They were the monsters the galaxy had forgotten existed, released only when the need was dire. Back on Turin 5, Jaren held Lyra close as the sky lit with strange colors. Explosions rocked the surface as Scifi ships faltered and fell from orbit. Dust and debris rained down, but the humans above did not strike the planet directly. They were precise, controlled, terrifying. They are helping us," Lyra whispered. Jaren could not answer. The humans above were beyond anything he could understand. They were not heroes in any traditional sense. They were instruments of an ancient power, and the Scifi had discovered too late what that truly meant. The Scifi fleet faltered. Panic spread through the ranks. Ships collided, weapons failed, and command protocols became meaningless in the face of the human strategy. Keller, once confident in his power, now felt the weight of fear he had never experienced. They are not here to negotiate," he muttered. "They are here to end us." And in the midst of the chaos, the humans did not speak. There were no warnings, no threats. Only precision, only control, only the terrifying efficiency of a species that had once been underestimated across the galaxy. For the people of Turin 5, hope was returning, though they could not name it. Fires still burned, buildings still crumbled, but the shadow of death that had loomed over them was lifting. Somewhere in the stars, humanity had awakened. And the Scifi understood at last that this was not mercy coming for them. It was the reckoning. The first wave of humans remained in orbit, scanning the planet and the fleet. On board, no human officer spoke to boast or threaten. They had no need. The galaxy knew their presence, and that was enough. Their silence was a weapon as deadly as any cannon. Commander Keller realized what was coming. Humanity did not need to destroy everything to be terrifying. They only needed to be unleashed. And now the monsters of legend, the humans of the old wars, were here, and no plea could save the Scifi from what was coming next. The Scifi fleet was in chaos. Ships that once moved with flawless coordination now collided and tumbled through the void. Their weapons failing as human vessels maneuvered with a speed and precision no alien technology could match. Commander Keller could barely breathe as he watched his armada crumble under the silent assault of machines that seemed alive, reacting to every movement before it happened. They are faster than anything we've ever built," one officer gasped, staring at the displays. "They anticipate us." Keller did not answer. He had no answers, only fear. The humans were not attacking recklessly. They did not shoot randomly or burn everything to dust. They struck precisely, disabling weapon systems, cutting off communications, and immobilizing fleets as if the Scifi were no more than toys. From orbit above Turin 5, Jaren and Lyra watched the sky. Fires still consumed the cities, but the immediate threat from the Scifi bombardment had paused. In the distance, strange shapes moved across the stars, ships unlike any the Turinians had ever seen. Their hulls gleamed in the twin sunlight, their size immense, yet their movement silent and fluid. They are humans?" Lyra asked, her voice small. Jaren swallowed hard. He did not know what to say. The The humans were real and they had come. But what they were doing he could not comprehend. Deep within the Scifi flagship, panic spread like a wildfire. Officers shouted over the alarms as human ships disabled entire divisions with methods that seemed almost supernatural. Keller's mind raced. They had faced strong enemies before, but never like this. Not in 1,000 years of war had he felt such dread. "They are monsters," one officer whispered. "Monsters?" Keller repeated, voice low. "No, they are humans, but humans unrestrained, something ancient. Something we have forgotten. And now, it is awake." Reports streamed in from across the fleet. Entire armadas were immobilized without a single shot landing. Energy fields disrupted weapons, and shields failed unpredictably. The humans had arrived not to negotiate, not to parley, but to act with terrifying efficiency. On Turin 5, the citizens began to emerge cautiously from their hiding places. Families, survivors, and the injured stumbled through the streets, unsure whether to flee or stay. The Scifi ships, once a symbol of death, now seemed frozen in place, unable to strike. Jaren held Lyra's hand tightly. "Do not look at the ships too long," he warned. "Just stay close." They moved through a ruined marketplace, stepping over debris and fallen structures. Around them, people whispered in disbelief. "They stopped," an old man murmured, pointing to the sky. "The fire, it is gone." Lyra's eyes sparkled, but she still clung to her father. "Papa, are they here to help?" Jaren did not answer. He wanted to, but the humans were not like anyone he had known. Their presence brought hope, yes, but also fear. Humans had once been powerful in the galaxy, yes, but this was something different. These were not mere soldiers. They were legends returned, creatures of unimaginable strength designed for the worst moments. Back in space, Keller made a decision. The Scifi had always offered mercy to those who surrendered. Perhaps it could work again. "Prepare a message," he ordered. "We will offer anything. Surrender territory, technology, tell them we seek peace." The officers stared at him. "Peace," one hissed. "Commander, they cannot be reasoned with. Look at our fleets." Keller's hands trembled as he typed the message. "We will try," he muttered. "If humans are here, let them know we submit." The transmission was sent, a silent plea to the beings that had returned from memory and myth. Above Turin 5, human ships responded, not with words, not with fire, but with a wave of controlled energy that swept through the Scifi fleet. Communications scrambled, weapons went offline, and entire warships drifted helplessly in orbit. The humans did not speak. They did not shout, they acted, and the galaxy watched as the impossible unfolded. One Scifi officer collapsed to the floor, unable to comprehend the scale of what was happening. They are monsters," he gasped. "And we are trapped." Keller's fingers shook over the control panel. Every strategy he had learned, every tactic honed over decades of war, was useless. The humans moved like shadows, precise, silent, unstoppable. They were not here for glory. They were here for control, for order, for judgment. On the planet's surface, the first human units descended. They did not fly in massive, noisy dropships. They appeared as if from thin air, their suits glowing faintly, advanced technology forming around them. Citizens gasped. Soldiers who had survived previous alien attacks fell to their knees, awed by the sight. A human officer stepped forward, tall, calm, and unyielding. He did not speak. His presence alone brought order. The surviving Scifi ground troops stationed on Turin 5 froze in place, unsure whether to attack or flee. Jaren pulled Lyra behind a broken wall. "Stay down," he whispered. Do not look at them too closely." But Lyra could not stop staring. The humans moved with precision, freeing trapped civilians, dismantling alien weapons with gestures that seemed almost magical. They did not kill recklessly. They did not destroy unnecessarily. But when action was required, it was absolute. In the orbit above, the humans continued their silent assault. Scifi ships attempted to regroup, firing at targets that were already gone. Entire sections of the fleet vanished, immobilized or neutralized without damage to civilian worlds below. Keller's mind raced. He realized the truth that so many had ignored for centuries. Humans had locked away their greatest strength. For decades, the galaxy had thought them weak, predictable, and cooperative, but humans did not stay weak by accident. They restrained themselves, always calculating, always planning for a moment like this. Now the restraint was gone. They could end us in moments," Keller muttered, "and yet they have chosen not to." Below, Jaren and Lyra moved through the streets with other survivors. They watched as humans cleared the ruins with astonishing speed, repairing structures enough to shield civilians, moving debris and fire with machines far beyond Tyrrhenian imagination. "They are helping," Lyra whispered again, hope growing in her voice. Jaren could only nod. Humanity had returned, and they had come not to boast or conquer, but to protect. Their methods were terrifying, yes, but so precise that no one except the Scifi realized how careful they were. "They are like monsters," he admitted softly, thinking of the legends he had heard from ancient human texts. "But maybe monsters we need." The Scifi sent another message. This time, desperation was clear. "We surrender," they broadcast across space. "Take our fleets, take our systems, spare our people, we beg for mercy." For a moment there was silence. Then one human vessel moved closer, not threatening, not firing, simply observing. Keller's stomach turned. He had expected humans to respond to their plea. Instead, they acted in a way that reminded him why humans had once been feared. Mercy was not given, it was judged. And the Scifi would soon learn that humans' judgment was absolute. On Turin 5, the humans began establishing safe zones for civilians. Their presence brought calm, though not complete understanding. Children laughed as they watched alien weapons dismantled safely, and adults whispered prayers of thanks. Yet, for every moment of relief, the memory of destruction lingered. Jaren held Lyra's hand tightly. "We are alive," he said softly. We may survive." But even he could not shake the awe that gripped him. The humans were not like any army he had known. They were disciplined, efficient, and terrifyingly powerful. And they had come for him and his people, not for conquest, not for glory, but because humans always answered the call where others failed. Commander Keller watched his fleet crumble in orbit. Ships drifted helplessly, systems offline, soldiers panicked. He realized with a growing dread that the humans were not negotiating. They were acting with an authority beyond any known species in the galaxy. They are not our enemies," he whispered. "Not yet, but if they choose, they could destroy everything." And above, the humans waited. Not for applause, not for recognition. They waited because they always acted when needed. Because mercy for some but monsters for others was the way humans had survived, and the way they always would. In the final moments of Part 2, the Scifi realized the impossible truth. Humans were not here to bargain, not here to plead. They were here to protect, to act, and to show the galaxy that when humans judged, no empire could escape. The first signs of the humans' quiet but unstoppable power had been shown. The galaxy would never forget the day when shapes in the dark emerged, and mercy for some, monsters for others, became the law of the universe. And Turin 5, though battered and scarred, would live. The Scifi had fled Turin 5's surface, but their panic did not end in orbit. Commander Keller watched the remnants of his fleet drift helplessly, powerless under the silent gaze of humanity's forces. For the first time in his long career, he realized that the humans were not ordinary allies, not ordinary soldiers. They were something else entirely. They are something we cannot fight," he whispered to himself. His officers avoided his gaze. Even now, as survivors scuttled to safety on Turin 5, the humans above acted with precision and control. Every move was calculated, every response deliberate. No energy was wasted, no life lost unless unavoidable. And then Keller's sensors detected something more: signals, transmissions, fragments of human history long thought erased. They were watching, learning, preparing. Deep within a hidden command vessel, the humans began their work. It was not visible from orbit, but the Scifi fleet would feel it soon. Ships immobilized, weapons disabled, communications cut. Humans moved silently across systems, evaluating the alien structures, scanning for weaknesses, and activating measures that no Scifi engineer could have imagined. Lieutenant Mara, a human officer, spoke softly to her crew. "The Scifi think they understand humanity." "They do not. They have never known what we truly are," her crew nodded. Their uniforms glimmered faintly under the lights of their ship. These humans were not just soldiers. They were the culmination of centuries of planning, of restraint, of knowing that one day the galaxy might need the full force of what humanity could become. "They believe we are gone," Mara continued, "that humans no longer rise. They are wrong, very wrong." On Turin 5, Jaren and Lyra continued moving with other survivors through the streets. They watched the humans dismantle the Scifi weapons, not destroying them unnecessarily, but neutralizing them completely. Children and adults alike stared in awe. They are helping everyone," whispered an elder. "They could have destroyed all of us. They could have left this planet in ruins, but they choose not to." Jaren held Lyra close. "This is not just help," he said. "It is something beyond help. They are the things we have only heard about in stories." Indeed, legends of human strength existed in old galactic records. They were once a species feared for their unpredictability, for their willingness to act decisively when threatened. Entire fleets had vanished in a single battle. Entire planets had burned because humans had chosen action over hesitation. And now, those legends had returned. Commander Keller, desperate for answers, had turned to intercepted human transmissions. What he discovered chilled him more than the destruction around him. Humans had locked away their greatest strength, hidden it from the galaxy for decades. It was not weapons alone. It was strategy, technology, and capabilities so advanced that no alien race could counter them without immense risk. Humans had restrained themselves, choosing cooperation and diplomacy, pretending to be weaker than they truly were. Keller realized the horrifying truth. The humans who had arrived at Turin 5 were not restrained. They were the unleashed force, the part of humanity that had been locked away for centuries to protect the galaxy from the worst threats. They were waiting for the right time, he muttered. We triggered them. Above Turin 5, human ships began coordinating with orbital systems. Entire sections of the Scifi fleet were immobilized, surrounded by fields that nullified propulsion and weapons. The humans did not fire immediately. They did not attack without reason. They waited, evaluating, testing. And then, with silent authority, they acted. A human vessel passed over Keller's flagship. Energy fields wrapped around the Scifi ship like invisible chains. Crew members screamed as systems failed. Sensors went dark, communications went silent. The vessel drifted helplessly, entirely at humanity's mercy. They could destroy us in moments, Keller muttered, and yet they have not. The human officer in charge did not speak. He did not need to. The Scifi could feel his decision through the precision of the human forces around them. They understood that mercy was a choice, but one humans did not give lightly. On the planet, Jaren and Lyra reached a small courtyard where survivors had gathered. Humans moved among them, assessing injuries, distributing supplies, and clearing debris with tools that seemed magical. Some humans wore light armor, others controlled devices that lifted massive rubble with ease. A child approached one human soldier holding a small toy broken in the bombardment. The human knelt, examining it carefully, repairing it with calm hands. Jaren watched, awestruck. They do not just fight, he whispered. They protect. They care, but they are still terrifying. Indeed, there was a paradox about humans that day. They were gentle where possible, brutal when necessary. They acted decisively, and their decisions left no room for error. Civilians survived because of their precision. Aliens trembled because of their efficiency. In orbit, Mara spoke to her crew again. The Scifi have never faced this. They do not know humans restrain themselves for a reason. They do not understand the full extent of our history, and they will never forget it after today. The crew nodded. Orders, Lieutenant? Contain them, Mara said. Neutralize all threats to allies, do not destroy unnecessary targets, and most importantly, ensure survivors live to remember what humans truly are. The ships moved with silent coordination, surrounding Scifi forces and cutting off escape routes. Entire divisions found themselves powerless, frozen by technology they could not comprehend. Human strategy was not visible. It was instinctive, precise, terrifying in its calmness. Commander Keller realized that the Scifi had underestimated humans for centuries. They had assumed humans were weak, cooperative, and predictable. Now, he knew they were none of these things. Humans were not just warriors. They were planners, thinkers, inventors, and monsters if the need arose. They restrained themselves to live among the galaxy peacefully. But when the choice was life or death, when the weak pleaded for help, humans became unstoppable. They are not merciful, Keller whispered. At least, not in the way we imagined. They are judges. On Turin 5, Lyra and Jaren watched as humans cleared the remaining Scifi ground troops. The aliens attempted to resist, but they were unprepared for human precision. Within minutes, the battlefield shifted completely. The surviving Scifi soldiers either surrendered or fled. The humans did not cheer. They did not boast. They acted, and the planet began to breathe again. Jaren could not help but feel awe. We thought we were doomed, he said. And yet here they are, they saved us, but I feel fear too. Lyra nodded. I do too, they are strong, scary strong, but they are helping. Jaren could only nod in agreement. Humans were different from anything he had imagined. They were legends alive, creatures that combined mercy and terror in a way no other species could. Back in orbit, the Scifi broadcast one final desperate transmission. We surrender completely, Keller said. Take all of our holdings, take our technology, spare our lives, spare our people, we beg for your mercy. The humans did not respond immediately. They waited, observing. Then a single ship moved closer, not to attack, not to destroy, but to oversee the surrender. Its presence was enough. Keller felt the weight of human judgment. This was no ordinary surrender. Humans did not act lightly. When mercy was offered, it was not given indiscriminately. They judged, and their judgment was absolute. On the ground, Jaren felt a strange calm settle over the planet. Fires had been contained, weapons dismantled, civilians safe. For the first time in hours, he allowed himself to breathe. Lyra tugged at his sleeve. Papa, will they leave us now? Jaren could not answer. The humans above did not seek recognition or gratitude. They acted because they were humans, because they judged when others could not, and because they understood that mercy and monsters were two sides of the same coin. They will leave, he said finally, unsure if it was truth or hope. But the galaxy will remember this day, and we will too. As Part 3 ended, the Scifi realized a terrifying truth. Humanity had restrained itself for centuries, hiding its full strength to live peacefully among the stars. But when called, when allies pleaded, and when monsters were needed, humans unleashed forces no empire could resist. The galaxy had underestimated them for too long. And now it had seen only the first glimpse of what humans had locked away. The Scifi Empire had never faced defeat like this. Their fleet lay crippled in orbit around Turin 5, their ships immobilized, their weapons useless, and their communications cut. Commander Keller watched in disbelief as human vessels moved with silent precision across the stars. Every maneuver, every calculation, every strike was flawless. The humans were not reckless. They did not fire indiscriminately. They acted with calm authority, and their presence alone brought terror. Keller's hands trembled over the console. He had sent desperate messages pleading for mercy, offering surrender, offering territory, even technology. And yet the humans did not respond to words. They acted. They are not negotiating, muttered Keller. They are judges, and we are on trial. In orbit above the planet, the humans began coordinating their next moves. Their ships formed patterns across space, creating invisible boundaries that Scifi ships could not cross. Any attempt to flee resulted in immediate containment. Energy fields immobilized their engines. Weapon systems failed before a shot could be fired. Lieutenant Mara observed the Scifi fleet through the sensors. They think surrender will save them, she said. They do not understand that surrender alone cannot undo what they have done. Mercy is a choice humans give to those who deserve it. Her crew nodded in silent agreement. They were the instruments of judgment. Precision, restraint, and efficiency defined them. They were humans unleashed, not recklessly, but deliberately. On Turin 5, Jaren and Lyra watched the humans move through the streets with methodical calm. Entire squads of Scifi troops had been captured or neutralized. Civilians began emerging from shelters, blinking in disbelief at the machines and humans that had saved them. They saved our homes, Lyra whispered, her voice trembling with awe. They could have destroyed everything, but they did not. Jaren nodded, gripping her hand tightly. They protect, but they are terrifying. There is power in them that no one can resist. Indeed, humanity had become something the galaxy had never expected. They were not heroes in the usual sense. They were the ultimate balance of restraint and destruction. They acted with care for the innocent, but any threat, any empire, any fleet, any force that dared harm the weak was met with absolute response. Commander Keller realized that the Scifi had underestimated humans for centuries. They had assumed humans were weak, cooperative, and predictable. Now they understood they had been deceived. Humanity's restraint had been a trap, a hidden strength waiting for the right moment to emerge. We cannot fight them, Keller admitted, his voice shaking. Our weapons, our strategies, none of it matters. They are beyond anything we have faced. Across the Scifi command room, officers stared at him in fear. Ships were drifting helplessly. Entire divisions had been immobilized. The humans did not even need to fight aggressively. They simply acted, and the Zephyri collapsed under the weight of human precision. In the skies above Turin 5, human ships began to descend toward remaining Zephyri strongholds. They moved slowly, deliberately, ensuring no civilian was harmed. Fields of containment surrounded each target, neutralizing defenses without destruction. Any Zephyri soldier who resisted was subdued instantly, without casualties on either side. Lieutenant Mara communicated with her ground units. Do not destroy unnecessarily. Control, contain, and neutralize. Let them understand that mercy is possible, but only for those who respect it. Her orders were followed with perfect execution. Humans acted decisively, but not recklessly. They were terrifying, yes, but measured. Every move demonstrated mastery and control, far beyond what the Zephyri had ever imagined. On the ground, Jaren noticed a group of Zephyri soldiers surrendering to a human unit. Their weapons were disabled, their communication devices offline. They fell to their knees, fear evident in their posture. Do not harm them, one human officer said calmly. Their lives are not yours to take. Jaren felt a shiver run down his spine. Humans had the power to destroy them all, yet they chose restraint. Their mercy was deliberate, controlled, and absolute, and yet the sheer force behind it made humans terrifying to behold. They are monsters, he whispered to Lyra. Monsters who save people, Lyra nodded. But they are humans, and they are ours. In orbit, Keller realized that the humans were not just acting against the Zephyri fleet. They were undoing decades of Imperial control. Entire sectors were liberated without bloodshed. Systems previously occupied by the Zephyri began to report contact with humans. Communication lines reopened. Civilians cheered. The galaxy began to witness something it had never seen before. They do not just fight, Keller admitted bitterly. They liberate. They act with purpose, with judgment. The humans moved like shadows across space, removing threats and freeing the oppressed. No one could stop them. No one could resist their precision. The Zephyri realized, too late, that they had never known humans at all. On Turin 5, the final pockets of Zephyri resistance were neutralized. Jaren and Lyra walked through the streets, observing humans disarming traps, repairing damaged systems, and aiding civilians. They spoke to no one unless necessary, yet their presence radiated authority. Every human in the city acted with purpose, calm, and an understanding of responsibility that left the Turinians in awe. They are like legends come to life, Jaren whispered. They were feared, and now we see why, but they are not cruel, they protect. Indeed, the paradox was clear. Humans were terrifying, yes, but only because they combined mercy and efficiency in ways the galaxy had never seen. Commander Keller, watching his fleet helplessly, realized the final truth. The humans had not come to negotiate, not to boast, not to conquer. They had come to enforce a law older than any empire, protect the weak, judge the guilty, and act decisively when others cannot. They could destroy everything, Keller muttered, but they choose not to. They restrain themselves until it is necessary. In the control room, officers whispered among themselves, entire fleets immobilized, systems disabled, civilian worlds freed, and still the humans waited, calm, deliberate, and precise. They are the monsters the galaxy whispered about, one officer said finally, but they are the ones who save. Above Turin 5, human ships began their final phase. They surrounded the last Zephyri strongholds in orbit, neutralizing weapons and forcing the remaining commanders to surrender. The Zephyri soldiers complied, understanding at last that resistance was futile. Mara watched through her sensors as humans secured the area. The Zephyri believe mercy is earned, she said, and they are correct, but humanity does not give it lightly. They must see our control and understand it fully. Every move was deliberate, every action was precise, no chaos, no unnecessary destruction. Only efficiency, only judgment, only humans acting as humans always had when the need was greatest. On the surface, Jaren and Lyra observed the Zephyri surrendering to human units. Some cried, others fell to their knees. Every soldier understood that the humans were not here to destroy them for sport. They were here to enforce order. They could kill us all, Lyra whispered. But they do not, Jaren nodded. They are something else, something the galaxy needed. And we are alive because of them. Indeed, the humans had turned the tide completely. Where the Zephyri once ruled, now control rested with humans. They acted decisively, swiftly, and without unnecessary cruelty. Their power was absolute, but so was their restraint. Commander Keller, defeated and humiliated, understood that the humans were not just fighters. They were symbols of judgment. Entire civilizations depended on their presence. The galaxy had underestimated them for centuries, and the consequences had been immediate and catastrophic. They are beyond us," he whispered. We cannot fight what we do not understand." Above him, human ships began to withdraw, leaving secure zones in their wake. Civilians and former Scifi prisoners alike began rebuilding under human supervision. The humans did not boast, did not celebrate. They acted quietly, efficiently, and deliberately. Their presence alone was enough to ensure survival, and their withdrawal reminded the galaxy that mercy was not given indiscriminately. It was a choice humans made, and they always acted with purpose. On Turin 5, as night fell and the fires were finally extinguished, Jaren and Lyra looked up at the stars. Human ships drifted silently above, waiting, watching, ensuring that the Scifi would never again threaten the planet. "They are monsters," Jaren said softly. "Monsters who save people, but they are humans, and they are ours." Lyra nodded, smiling faintly. "We will never forget today. They changed everything." And above the planet, the humans waited, not for thanks, not for recognition, but because they always acted when needed. Mercy for some, monsters for others. The galaxy would remember this day for centuries.